Yo, what is going on, everybody, and welcome to the After Whistle podcast. I am your host, Owen Tomko. So a brief overview about what we're going to do. I know this is my first video that I've ever done on this channel. We are going to be mainly focusing on NFL and NCAA news, scores, predictions, pregame, postgame, stuff like that. You should be expecting about 2 or 3 videos a week or so, one on Wednesday, one on Friday, and maybe one on Saturday, depending on, how things go. Just an FYI, I am a high school football quarterback, so I sort of know what I'm talking about. I do get things wrong, of course, I'm only human, but I do have practice Wednesday afternoons, so if you don't see it till Thursday morning, you don't see it till Thursday morning, so... But yeah, a little bit about me. I mean, I've been playing football pretty much my whole life. I played flag football till 8th grade and then played tackle football last year for my freshman football team. I played quarterback and I am 16 years old. So if anybody's asking what does a 16-year-old know about football, you know. If you can't tell, I am a Notre Dame fan. I'm also a Seattle Seahawks fan. So I'm going to try, and I'm going to be as unbiased as possible. If I am going to be a little bit biased, I will say I'm going to be a little biased. This is a little biased, or that was kind of a biased statement. But I'm going to try and get all the facts and news and information out to you guys. I actually got this idea from a couple of my friends. I was on their show a couple of weeks, maybe last week. It is JMP Sports Talk. Good guys. A couple of my buddies who are actually Notre Dame fans too, but I got that idea from them. So so that's what you can expect from me. I'm not the genius by any means of the imagination, but I certainly do kind of know what I'm talking about. So I guess the big thing we'll start off with is I'm recording this on Friday afternoon, evening, whatever you want to call it, 4:30. And there's been a slate of games today. Most notably, you have the Notre Dame North Carolina game, which just finished up as I'm recording this video. Notre Dame pulled out a victory, 31-17 against a very, very high-powered offense in North Carolina. If you see me looking over to my right here, I have my second computer here so I can get all the information to you guys. So, I'm scuffed. It is what it is. I'm recording from my other computer right now. So, we'll make the best of it. But stat lines in this game, Ian Book threw 23 for 33 for 279 yards and a touchdown. Sam Howell threw 17 for 27 for 211 and 1 touchdown. That, I think, is his lowest amount of passing yards and passing touchdowns this year. Kyron Williams rushed for 23. He rushed for 124 yards and 2 touchdowns on 23 carries. Their running back Carter rushed for 57 yards on 8 carries and no touchdowns. The leading receivers in the games for both teams, Javon McKinley for the Irish, 135 yards on 6 receptions. I think that's a 22.5 average or something like that. And D. Brown, 4 for 84 yards. The big thing, our defense held one of the most prolific offenses in the country to 17 points. And that is without our starting free safety, Kyle Hamilton, who was ejected late in the first half for a targeting call on a 3rd and 20 or so. So that means he was out for that half, and then the second half of our game, which means he'll be back next week against Syracuse. Let's see. Where am I going to go with this? It was in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, so we were playing there. Big plays came by, Ben Skowronek. Even though he had 3 for 34, 3 receptions for 34 yards, I don't know if they considered it a rushing touchdown or not. I'd have to look. They did consider it a rushing touchdown. They ran a jet sweep late in the game. 13-yard jet sweep to Ben Skowronek, a grad transfer from North Carolina, for a touchdown. That set that up. Ian Book ran 8 for 48. He looked pretty good considering, they got after him a lot, and he was kind of He was an escape artist, basically. I mean, he got out of some improbable situations. But we held Sam Howell to 11 carries for 2 yards on the ground, which is not very good at all. Sam Howell, he's a prolific passer. I mean, he probably, I gotta look this up, but I think he averages upwards of 340 something yards passing a game or something. Let's see. I can't find it. But he has thrown for 2,700 yards this year, 23 touchdowns, 6 interceptions with a 78 QBR rating. That is fourth. The 2,700 yards is fourth, I think, it's either fourth in the country or fourth in the ACC. I think it's fourth in the country in passing yards. I think he leads the ACC in passing yards. He averages... he doesn't average much on the ground. He's not much of a defensive runner, but I think we got after him very well. We put pressure on him, brought blitzes in spots that we needed to, made some big key stops late in the game. I think the over-under in this game was 68.5, which we did not cover, which I would have expected we would have gone the over. But... and then you have the spread being 5.5. The big key, one other thing Notre Dame was missing, their starting center and their starting right guard. We lost our starting center for the year with a ACL or with a knee injury or an ankle surgery, and we lost our starting right guard to I think he had some sort of surgeries for something on his leg or something, so he was out for that game. So we started a center who had never started a game in God, I can't remember, but we started a right guard named Josh Lugg, 5th career start. Played some pretty big games in his career. He's only played 5 games. Some of the other games today, you had Iowa State, Texas. Iowa State pulled that off. Number 13, Iowa State pulled off the victory over number 17, Texas, 23-20. Texas's kicker missed a 57-yard field goal at the end of the game. Brock Purdy threw 25 for 36 for 312 yards and 1 touchdown, and Sam Ehlinger threw for 17 for 29, 298 yards and a touchdown. Pretty similar numbers, honestly. Brock Purdy threw more passes than Sam Ehlinger, but I think the thing that set Sam Ehlinger apart from Brock Purdy was Sam Ehlinger carried the ball 15 times for 65 yards and a rushing touchdown, while Brock Purdy ran for 9 carries for 19 yards and no touchdowns. Bryce Hall, 20 carries for 91 yards and a touchdown, was Iowa State's leading rusher. And actually, Sam Ehlinger was the leading rusher for Texas. Receiving-wise, Charlie Kohler, 6 receptions for 131 yards and no touchdowns, was the leading receiver for the Cyclones. And Brennan Eagles was the leading receiver for the Longhorns. He had 5 receptions for 142 yards. That game was in Texas. That pushes Iowa State to 7-2, and it drops Texas to 5-3. Iowa State is almost a guaranteed, I think they are guaranteed into the Big 12 playoff now, Big 12 championship, which they would be probably playing either Oklahoma or Oklahoma State. That'll be a pretty good game. It is weird that there were Friday games today, but since it's the day after Thanksgiving, I can see why. Other games you got going on right now. You have UCF South Florida. Last I checked, that game was 45-38 UCF over South Florida. It's still going on right now. It's at Raymond James Stadium. UCF, prolific offense, can score 1,000,000 points if they wanted to. But another big game, you had number 24 Iowa taking on Nebraska, the Cornhuskers at home. Iowa did come away with the victory 26-20 in that game. I'm not going to go into the stats of that game because I'm not going to look. Liberty beat University of Massachusetts 45-0. I'm not surprised. University of Massachusetts have only put up 12 points all year, and that trend seems to continue. I wouldn't be surprised if they dropped down to Division II next year. All right, and for the games tomorrow, you have an interesting slate of games tomorrow. I wouldn't say necessarily the greatest slate of games. I think there have been better games. Let's see, you have Ohio State playing at Illinois tomorrow morning. You have Florida playing University at home against Kentucky, which I think should be a blowout. Indiana playing Maryland. So that's a game that I do want to get into a little bit. I will be going through like game day predictions and stuff like that with the spread and the over-under, even though I am not a betting man myself since I am only 16. Maryland comes into that game 2-1, 2-1 in conference because they only play conference games. Indiana enters the game number 12 in the country at 4-1. Tua Tagovailoa's brother, Talia Tagovailoa, is the leading passer for the Maryland Terrapins. Thrown for 770 yards, 6 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. And Penix Jr. is the leading passer for the Indiana Hoosiers at 1,500 yards, 14 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. I would say keep this game on your radar. I think Indiana is a very good team. I mean, they hung with Ohio State last week. Sorry, not last year. You lose track of time a little bit, but I think Maryland's a team to beat, or Indiana's the team to beat in that conference. Even though Ohio State, they have Illinois, Michigan State left on their remaining schedule. So that's pretty much a cakewalk for them. I wouldn't be surprised if they go undefeated. But Indiana goes into the game 4-1, number 12 in the country. Maryland 2-1, like I've already said. Maryland puts up more total yards of offense against teams. They put up 430 yards of total offense to Indiana's 388 yards a game. But the thing is yards allowed. Maryland's given up 474 yards of total offense and to Indiana's 378. So I think this is a game you got to watch because I think Maryland I don't say easily, but I think they have a chance to win this game. The over-under of this game is 64. I would say take the under on that game. I don't think it'll be... Actually, I'd say it's take the over because I say it'll be a high-scoring game. I think the spread's 12 in favor of Indiana. Indiana's favored by 12. I would say watch this game because I think it is an upset alert. I think there's a chance for an upset Maryland pulls off. I think Maryland keeps it close. I want to say it's a 7-point game. Maryland does cover. It isn't over. I think it is... I think it's 35-28 Indiana. I think it's a close game going into the fourth quarter. I think Maryland pulls ahead, goes up to score. Indiana comes back, puts 2 scores up on them, and then Maryland is forced to throw the ball and throws an interception on the last drive of the game. So I would take Indiana in the game. I would take the over, but I would take Maryland to cover. The next game we are going on to... let me look here. You have Oklahoma State, Texas Tech. I think that'll be a shootout. I don't know the over-under on that game, but I would take the over because Big 12. I've notoriously been known for saying it, and it is they have no defense. Let's see, any other good games? You have Alabama Auburn. So you have the Iron Cup at 12:30. That is the game of the week. The game of the week on Saturday. Nick Saban is not coaching, or Nick Saban is coaching this week. No, Nick Saban is not coaching this week. He got COVID again. The first time he had it, it was actually a couple false positives. With that being said, also, Ryan Day, the head coach of Ohio State, is not going to coach his game because he got COVID. Mind you, Ohio State does play Illinois, and they should have a walk in the park. Alabama comes in 7-0, number 1 in the country, not surprising, right? Auburn comes in at 5-2, at number 22 in the country. Bo Nix is your leading passer for the Auburn Tigers, thrown for 1,600 yards, 10 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Mac Jones is your leading passer for the Crimson Tide, 2,500 yards, 18 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Tank Bigsby, leading rusher for your Tigers, and then Najee Harris is your leading rusher for the Tide. Alabama has a dominant offense. I mean, they are unbelievable on offense. They can score almost every time they touch the ball. They got a good balanced attack, good passing, good rushing. Like to throw the ball a lot, though. The over-under in this game is 62.5. Take the over on this game. And the spread in this game is 24.5. Clemson is favored by 24. Or Clemson, good lord. Alabama's favored by 24.5. I think that is outrageous. I do not believe that spread should be 24.5. I would say it should be more like 17. I think Auburn's a way better team than people think. They escaped the scare against Arkansas earlier in the year. I remember that. I watched that game. They should have lost that game, by the way, but they didn't. Alabama is just rolling through their schedule. I mean, they beat number 3 Georgia 41-24. At the time, they were number 3 in the country. They beat Tennessee by 31. They beat Mississippi State by 41, and they beat Kentucky by 60. So I would say you want to take the over on this game. I would say it's going to be a high-scoring game, of course. The Iron Cup, or the Iron Bowl, whatever. It's the Iron Bowl. Whatever. I don't know the name of the rivalry. I know it's something iron, but I think it's the Iron Bowl. It is always a high-scoring game. Some of them have come in dramatic fashion. That kick six a couple years ago, that was crazy. I didn't watch the game in person, but I've seen highlights of it many, many times. I would say, honestly, I'm gonna pick an upset here. I'm gonna say Auburn wins. I'm gonna say Auburn wins by 7. They do cover. It is over. I think they win 62.5. I would say it is a 42-37 game in favor of the Auburn Tigers. I don't know what's about it. I got a gut feeling that Auburn's going to win this game. I think you're going to have to force turnovers against this Alabama offense, make some stops, but you gotta stop the big play. Donovan Smith, I think, is their leading receiver with 903 yards and 10 touchdowns on the year. He can take the top off of any defense. I think you have to contain him. You can't allow big plays. You have to force turnovers, as in every game. I mean, you got to force turnovers. But I think the biggest thing is Auburn's defense. I mean, they got to get after Mac Jones. If they can get after Mac Jones, force a couple sacks, force a couple interceptions, and Auburn's offense is somehow clicking, which I'm not saying they haven't been. I'm just saying they've put in some close games against some teams that they shouldn't have. So I think, like I said, I think it's 42. What did I say, 42? Yeah. So it's 42-35. Auburn. I think they do pull off the upset. I think 24.5 is an outrageous spread. I think Auburn is too good of a football team to get beat by 25 points against Alabama, but I wouldn't be surprised. So this is one of the games that I'm going to look back on and probably regret saying, but I have Auburn winning by 7, I have them covering, and I have the over in this game. Next game we are going on to, that is the big game of the week. That's probably, you have Northwestern, Michigan State. Northwestern should roll them. You have Boston College, Louisville. I know that's normally a game that nobody would think about talking about, is Boston College, Louisville. But those are two pretty good teams, actually. Louisville, despite being, I think they're under 500. I very well could be wrong. But give me one sec, because my freaking computer ain't loading. But I think Louisville, they are 3-6 in the ACC conference, which they're 3-6, not ranked. Boston College is 5-4. I think this will be a very, very good game. The reason I'm saying this game is because it is an ACC game, and it is it's going to be a very good game. Even though they're 3-6, I think they are very competitive. They got a really good quarterback, really good running back who can do anything. Their quarterback, Cunningham, 2,100 yards, 16 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. Jay Hawkins, 822 yards and 7 touchdowns. And on the BC side of things, you have Phil Jurkovic, backup quarterback for the Irish for a couple of years, actually, and then transferred to BC this year. Thrown for 2,400 yards, 17 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, rushing 450 yards and 5 touchdowns for Bailey. I don't know. I've seen Boston College play. They played Notre Dame earlier this year. They played them pretty good, actually. I mean, Jurkovic made some mistakes that he probably regretted making, but I think it's a very good game. I think Louisville has a very good offense. I think they can put up yards, they can score, they can put up points, right? They have played some pretty interesting. They have played a pretty interesting schedule. I mean, they played Virginia and lost to them. They played Virginia Tech, lost to them. They beat a decent Florida State team by 32. They played Notre Dame and lost by 5. And that's hard to do. Notre Dame's defense is very, very good. They put up 7 points on them, which is expected, honestly. But here's the thing, though. So the spread is Boston College is favored by 1. So you really can't go anywhere with the spread here because it's a 1. I mean, you either bet they cover, they don't. I mean, it's very... I mean, you almost can't win by 1. I mean, you can, but it's very unlikely. The over-under is 55. I'm going to say... Honestly, I'm going to take the under on this game. I think even though it has the potential to be a very, very high-scoring game, I think the defenses step up and play. I think Boston College wins this one. I think they win it. I mean, it's got to be... I mean, 55.5 is not much. I mean, it's 27 to, 28 or something like that. So, I mean, it's not bad. Honestly, yeah. So, I have Boston College 28-21 in a low-scoring affair with, I think, Boston College goes up early in the first half, as they did against Clemson. But I think it's only 14. I think they go up 14 in the first half. And then their offense slows down. Louisville comes back, actually takes the lead. I think they go up 21-14. Or 21-7. Yeah, 21-14. And then I have Boston College scoring 2 touchdowns in the second half and winning. That is a 1 o'clock game tomorrow afternoon, Pacific time. So... For everybody listening, I am a Pacific time zone guy. So all the times that I'm going to say are going to be Pacific time, so you guys can do the math and stuff like that. Let's see, some games that are still on. Utah-Washington, I think could be a good game. That's at 4:30 Pacific time. I think... We saw a little bit about what Utah is going to be. I mean, they played SC they played their first game last week against USC. Played them pretty good, honestly, at home. They go to Washington, and I think it's supposed to be cold. I think I don't really watch these teams. I'm not a big, even though I am a secondary Washington State fan. But. Oh, that's the wrong game. That's not what I wanted. Sorry, this is so scuffed. I mean, normally, when I did this with my friends, I had other people talking about it so I could get ready for this stuff. But now it's just me, so I'm kind of scrambling myself to get this all done. But you have Utah-Washington. It is at Husky Stadium in Washington. I don't really know much about both teams. I think Washington they're not ranked on the year, I don't believe. I think they are, they're not ranked, sorry. But they are from what I've seen of them, they are a pretty decent football team. Utah, they played USC tough last week. I think they lost by 10. I don't remember what the score was. Washington, they are 2-0, and Utah, they are 0-1. Utah did not have a good passing game against SC. Actually, they lost to SC by 16. So, it's a pretty big loss. Utah's quarterback played one game, 171 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 picks. Washington's quarterback, Morris, 371 yards, 2 touchdowns. It's a Pac-12 game, so it's always going to be an interesting game. I think the spread's 47.5. I don't see. I would take the over. I don't see Utah scoring much points at all. I would say they score 17 points, which means Washington would have to score 30 or more. I think they score. I think it's 30. I'm literally pushing right over the spread, or right over the over/under here. I'm saying 31-17 is the final score. Washington in favor of Washington. The spread is 7 in favor of Washington. I think Washington does cover at 7. I think they win. Like I said, I think they win 31-17. I think it's the final score of this game. And it's going to be 51 and sunny in Seattle, Washington tomorrow, which is a very rare, very, very rare sight as a Seahawks fan. I have watched games where it is not in person. Another game that'll be good is another Pac-12 game, Arizona at UCLA. I don't know if UCLA's quarterback's playing again this week. I know he was out last week against Cal. Both teams coming in are, I think they're both under 500. I very well could be wrong here. Let me look. My computer is super slow today, so I apologize. But let's see. Yeah, UCLA comes into the game 1-2, and Arizona comes into the game 0-2. I don't know anything about UCLA's quarterback, whether or not he's going to play or not. One thing I can tell you is, straight into it, UCLA is favored by 10.5 and the over-under 69. I will take the under on this game. I think it is going to be a very low-scoring game. I don't think any offense is going to be able to catch any traction and run with anything. The over-under 69, so I take the under. UCLA is favored by 10.5. I do not see that happening. I see Arizona winning this football game. Arizona, from what I saw when they played USC, they played pretty well, actually. Didn't know what we were going to see out of them, missing Khalil Tate, who was their quarterback last year, who played pretty good. Their quarterback now is actually playing pretty good. Gurnell, 545 yards, 6 touchdowns, 1 interception. That's over a two-game span. DTR, the quarterback for UCLA, is 500 yards, 7 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. I think it's going to be Arizona's ability to use. I think it's going to be. I don't know. I think UCLA definitely wins the game. I think UCLA upsets them. Let's just say that. Okay. I say they cover. It's an under. I want to say I have Arizona by 3. I think UCLA has UCLA has a decent offense. I mean, in the 3 games they played, they put up almost 470 yards of offense, I think. That's what I'm looking at. And Arizona's defense is not very good. They give up like 490 yards of total offense. But I think it's a defensive game. I think it's, what am I going to say? I'm going to say 24-21, Arizona. I think it's the final score of this game. So I think it's a good game. Very solid. Low-scoring game. But I do see Arizona pulling off the upset. Quick little turnaround here. UCF. Let me go find that game real quick. UCF is still live at South Florida right now. It was 52-38. UCF, last I checked. South Florida's ball inside, or on a 4th and 1 inside UCF territory. That's always a high-scoring game. UCF is always a high-scoring game. But yeah, so let's not worry about that game anymore because that game is live. So we had a couple postponements yesterday or throughout the week. Yeah, so it's 4th and 1 on UCF's 34, actually 52-38 UCF. over the University of South Florida. There are some pretty good games that were canceled, I think, this week. I know Minnesota canceled their game. I'm almost positive of that. No, I don't want Iowa's Texas State's box score. I've already looked at that. Once again, sorry I'm so scuffed. But let's see. We had some pretty big, not necessarily big games, but some pretty big matchups canceled. Cincinnati Temple. I know that doesn't seem like a very good game, but it was a big game for Cincinnati. It was a spot for them to go 9-0, and they are number 7 in the country right now. So they kind of needed that game to give them that 9th win to kind of elevate them and give them a chance at the playoff. Wisconsin, Minnesota was also canceled. Oklahoma, West Virginia, Tulsa, Houston were all canceled. So I think it's a pretty big games. There aren't any other. I mean, Virginia, Florida State. Sorry, I gotta close my door again. Virginia, Florida State is going to be probably a pretty good game. And then Georgia, South Carolina, Louisville, Rutgers, Appalachian State, Pittsburgh, Clemson. So I know that doesn't seem like a big game to anybody, but I think it's a trap game for Clemson. I think it's Trevor's first game back in 5 weeks. He hasn't played in 5 weeks. Picked up a football since he got COVID, right? Pitt goes into the game 5-4. Clemson comes into the game 7-1 with number 3 in the country. The over/under is 56.5. I would take the over on that one. Clemson's offense easily has the ability to put up 56 points by themselves. The spread is 23.5. I wouldn't be surprised. I think this is a very Clemson needs to win this game. I think Pittsburgh can win the game. I think they have a chance, but I think Clemson's just too darn good. I just think they're way too good to lose to Pittsburgh. But I would definitely keep that game. I think Pittsburgh does cover, but I think Clemson does win the game. I think they win pretty handily, but I think Pittsburgh does end up covering. And honestly, that's pretty much it for the episode, guys. That is your Sunday or Saturday rundown of my predictions for all of the big impact games of the week. I should be coming out with or try to do a NFL show tomorrow and get that out before NFL Sunday. But yeah, because there's been some pretty big news out of the NFL recently, if you haven't heard. But yeah, so that's gonna be me signing off for the day. Thank you guys for watching, as always. If you like the video, just leave a like. If you don't worry about it. If you disagree with anything I say, go ahead. I mean, I very well could be wrong on every single one of these predictions. I don't know. It's just my opinion. It's fun. Something for me to do. All right. Till next time, boys.